Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who The Web of Fear, which is the 5th story from Doctor Who Season 5, so this is 5-5, and the second story to have missing episodes recovered in 2013, with The Enemy of the World completely being discovered, with episode 3 already being surviving, and this story, all the episodes were also discovered, episode 1 also surviving. However, episode 3 of this story is still missing because it was then passed on to a private collector by either accident or on purpose, so it was either sold or stolen, which is really annoying. It might have been when they were trying to work out a deal for the for the collector to try and get all these episodes taken back to the BBC. But for one reason or another, episode 3 is now still missing due to being in the hands of a private collector somewhere. So, why? Does this private collector think he can make a lot of money if he sold it back? Does he think because it's the only copy at the moment we know of, he can hold on to it and be selfish? I don't know. If I had them, if I found any or bought any and discovered that they were missing episodes, I would, as soon as I can, return them to the BBC. As soon as I found out a way to do it. I'm sure there's a call line or an email or something. I'm sure of it, that as soon as I can get in contact with someone, I would return those episodes to the BBC on the condition I got a free DVD release when they came out. if I could get a free DVD when they come out, they're all yours. Actually, that's selfish. They're all yours. But I would like a free DVD release, if that's okay with you. Okay, so I wouldn't force them, but be nice, a nice reward, and to maybe keep the things after they've copied them, or if I think that's what they said. But that's not the point. The point is, if I found any, I would return them to the BBC immediately, as soon as I found out how to get in contact with them. But okay, so yeah, oh well. Anyway, with the story, I will quickly mention the reconstruction is actually a really good reconstruction. It's still pictures with audio, but I suppose that's we're going to have to settle with, to be honest. But we also have sometimes it zooms in on some things and it alters pictures for maybe showing the characters or events, what's going on. With Underwater Menace Parts 1 and 4, they didn't really do that. They just changed the pictures when they felt like it. Here they change them when they're necessary, like the fan ones. Jesus, thank God. There isn't that many captions on it, though. There is one not too far from the end of the episode, but just doing some description captions. Besides that, I think it would have been great. I also took a look at a fan reconstruction before doing this review from Joint Venture, who I watched the Highlanders review from, reconstructions from them. Let's say from the 5 episodes from Joint Venture, I've watched reconstructions for the Highlanders 1 to 4 and this story part 3. I can easily say that I think Loose Cannon are better. So, going back for those for the remaining missing episodes, thankfully. So yeah, and I think this is possibly the best reconstructed episode I've seen. I'm going to check out, maybe I'll have to check out the Ice Warriors parts 2 and 3, the condensed reconstruction that was on the video, and it's now an extra on the DVD, and the same for the 10th Planet part 4. That one had the reconstruction on its video and now on a DVD. I'll probably have to check those ones out, and maybe to rewatch the Marco Polo one, but after watching that one time, turned myself off from that reconstruction. The loose cannon full reconstructions are much better, thankfully, and thankfully that condensed reconstruction didn't give me an overall opinion of that story. The full story reconstruction helped. And there's one other reconstruction, that's the Wheel in Space, also the Galaxy Fall one, which I liked, but I prefer the full length reconstruction rather than condensed. Anyway, but Wheel in Space, I don't have any comment on it because it's on a streaming service in America that I can't access, and it's not on DVD yet. So, no comment on the Wheel in Space one, but apparently it's by the same guy who did this one and the Underwater Menace ones. I told you not to let him go anywhere near them again after Underwater Menace. So hopefully Wheel in Space has done a much bit more like this one rather than the other one. Those who've seen it, comment below. But as for me, I can't comment at the moment. Not unless it gets its own DVD release. Most likely there will be a completely different reconstruction or animation if it does. It was rumoured to be getting one along with the Macra Terror, and the form Macra Terror turned out to be true in terms of animated anyway. So we'll see. Anyway, so talk this long without going into the story. So the plot of the story is the Great Intelligence is up to something again. What exactly? I think he's trying to drain the Doctor's mind. Not really for revenge. Just actually I don't know what. Can't remember what. He just wants to drain the Doctor's mind. It's a trap for that. And wants to invade the planet, I think. I think that's it. I don't think the Great Intelligence has great motivation for what it does. In Abominable Snowman, it wanted a body. So when I was editing, I found that out and added that into the review. But whilst filming, I was ranting about how there is no motive, and there is a motive, but it's shit. This one, I think it's also pretty shit motive. When we come to Series 7, it makes a bit more sense with its motive, at least after the Snowman. I think in the Snowman, it's not that great of a motive, but when we get to Bells of St. John and the name of the Doctor, it makes sense. This story coming out in 2013, being discovered in 2013, minus that one missing episode, was pretty. The stars were lining up really well because the Great Intelligence was brought back in 2012, and it was the main series villain of Series 7, which was 2012 to 2013. So, yeah, Great Intelligence was back in the 50th anniversary year. Guess what else was discovered in 2013? Albeit one episode missing, and the DVD release was in 2014. Well, they had to do the reconstruction, and Enemy of the World could go out first because it was completely surviving. Moonbase was also released sooner somehow. I guess they just wanted another Cyberman story. Sorry about that. So, anyway, so the Great Intelligence wants the Doctor's mind, so it does this elaborate plot where it takes over the world using, or at least London, with this mist, the cobweb, hence the web of fear, and new Yetis. So now it has to fight some soldiers in the underground. Ooh! Underground? London Underground? This is actually a pretty good map to use for the talking about the underground. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the entire map, but what we really need is this area over here. that I'm circling in. For starters, the Good Street, which now also features the Victoria line, which it was opening later in 1968, by the way, at least up to Victoria, with an extension to Brixton, which would be around here-ish, coming in by 72. Certainly in 1970. 68 for them up to Victoria, and I think 69, 70 forward to Brixton. It's definitely completely up and running by 72. There's a Doctor Who magazine comic strip about a family living in Brixton, and they mention the father works on the Victoria line. Okay, so Good Street is the headquarters. Oh no, it's not Good Street, it's Warren Street that has the Victoria line. Good Street's still Northern Line only. Piccadilly Circus with the Piccadilly and Bakerloo lines has the headquarters of the Great Intelligence. King's Cross, St Pancras gets... they talk about that at one point, where the Intelligence is completely overrunning it, and all of the Circle line. Jamie and another guy, another soldier, I can't remember his name, they get to go to Cannon Street and then they go to Monument, but it's completely blocked off, so they're trapped there, and then they eventually make their way to St Paul's on the Central. Holborn is where a battle took place off screen, Piccadilly and Central. Covent Garden is where the TARDIS was. Was Leicester Square used for something? I'm not sure. And Charing Cross with the explosives. At this point, Charing Cross is now Embankment, with what is now Charing Cross being Trafalgar Square and Strand, being merged together to be a brand new Charing Cross station with the introduction of the Jubilee line. And the former Charing Cross was renamed Embankment. There's a lot of naming situations there, and I know what you're thinking, the Jubilee line doesn't go to Charing Cross. Not anymore, sadly. With the extension to Stratford, it bypasses, it's around here, Charing Cross, it bypasses Charing Cross. So instead of going from Green Park there, it now goes via Westminster. So now it bypasses Charing Cross. Fun fact, Cannon Street was also going to be on the proposed second phase of the Jubilee line when it was going further east. And would have gone to Fenchurch Street, and then further proposals to go to the southeast. Alas, it never came, and instead we got the new Millennium extension opened to go to the dock via the Docklands. It's really nice. So that's pretty much it. Oh, they mentioned Euston Square Falls, and also mentioned Tower Hill. They also mentioned Temple, but they call it the Temple, and they call Monument the Monument. And Aldersgate is now Barbican. As you can see, and they also mentioned Tottenham Court Road. That's about it. So this is definitely before the Victoria line came along. So 68 map would not include the Victoria line until later on. I think the Victoria line would have helped. In fact, they could have even used the new tunnels, but stick to the ones we know. And also the Waterloo City line, if they could get to Bank, could be a way out of the situation. Anyway, so despite some flaws in the plan of the villain, we've got a fantastic setting. London Underground. You know what? Any story that takes place on the London Underground, I'm game for. Let's just put it that way. We should have more stories. They go to it in Invasion of the Dinosaurs for a little bit. And the game City of Death, again, also at Charing Cross. And although the entrance is at Trafalgar Square, so maybe they're copying them more the Charing Cross station as of 2010 as opposed to 1963. Whoopsies. Anyway, so also the map features Aldwych, although they don't go to it, we can clearly see Aldwych on the map. That's gone. That's closed. Fun fact, it was originally called Strand, but when the Northern Line opened Strand Station, which is now part of Charing Cross, it was renamed Aldwych. And Strand's merged with Trafalgar Square to make Charing Cross. Anyway, that's it. But yeah, I just love the London Underground, and I love that they use this setting super much. They do not waste this setting. They use it to the advantage of the story and the execution. So any flaws I have with the villain's motivation for this in this story, completely ignore that. So I can just watch more Soldiers and Yetis in the Underground. Okay with you? But being a review, I have to mention the motive is shit. If it's not revenge, it's not exactly the best motive. The twist on who's controlling the intelligence, who the intelligence is controlling, I should say, is a nice surprise on the first time viewing. And twists and turns, well, it makes sense. You're supposed to start by thinking it's either Lethbridge Stewart, who we all know will become a more important character in the future. So Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, or Mr. Hooley, I believe his name is, the newsreader, or the guy Jamie was with, the Welsh driver, army driver person. Evans, that's his name. There was an Evans in the moon base as well, just remembering. But I won't reveal who it is. But it's none of them. It's someone else. Travers is back, and he's even better than before. And Anne Travers, his daughter, is also a pretty good character. I think the actors do great jobs. Sets look fantastic. I think the London Underground did try and have a sue them or something for looking so realistic that they filmed without permission, but ultimately because they hadn't filmed without permission on the Underground, at least I don't think they had to pay up because they were actual sets. I think actually I remember there's another bit of Underground in the future. Trial of the Time Lord mentions Marble Arch Station, or at least they're in what was Marble Arch. Yeah, this is just great. I'm just happy to have this location now. All the activity going on, despite the villain's motivation, it's still really great executed. The first couple minutes of the story kind of wrap up where we left off with the enemy of the world, with Jamie eventually pressing a button on the control to stop the TARDIS from causing problems, even though the Doctor or Victoria could have easily have done it themselves if they just climbed over and pressed a couple buttons, as opposed to just having Jamie, who was on the other side of the ship. Somehow he got from nearer to the doors to the back and then back to the console. But, oh well. So, kind of wrap that up, and then we move to the plot afterwards. The team are suspended in space for a little bit, but then they soon head down to Earth and the Underground to solve out the mystery. The Doctor's missing from part 2, and I think Jamie is missing from 4 or 5. So maybe they had their holidays then. And the Brigadier has a pretty good introduction. You don't know if you can trust him or not until the end, and obviously when he next appears in the Invasion, and promoted to Brigadier, so I should call him the Colonel for this story. But Colonel Lethbridge Stewart is a great character, and I'm glad that he got to become one of the greatest characters in the show, starting with the Invasion when he's promoted to Brigadier, and later knighted. I'm not sure whether that's by Battlefield or by Sarah Jane Adventures, but he definitely gets knighted at some point. And Nicholas Courtney returns, and like with Mark Croy, he does Mark Croy? Brent Vayon. No, Mark Croy's the other guy. Brent Vayon, he does a great job, and it's 40, yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again in the Invasion and the John Pertwee era. Excuse me. And I think Jack Watling, Deborah Watling's father, who plays Travers in these two stories, does an even better performance here. And I prefer his character here. And I think most of the soldiers are pretty good. That reminds me, in part 2, there is a bit where two soldiers are just talking, and then they notice that King's Cross, the fungus thing is coming through King's Cross in Euston Square. So, but the bits leading up to that are just them talking. You could have cut those. Those could have been cut. We could have just jumped to two soldiers looking on the screen, seeing that King's Cross and Euston, St Pancras and Euston Square stations have been covered by the fungus. And similarly, I think there's parts of part 4 or 5 that could have been edited down. This story could have been 5 parts. I don't think it could have been. It should have been 6. I think it could have been 5. It's better being at 6 parts than Abominable Snowmen and Ice Warriors, but I think it could have gone down to 5 parts. It didn't need to be 6. But that being said, it's it's better. It's a better story being at 6 parts than those other 2 I mentioned. It's rightly being 6 parts. It is still a bit too long, and like I said, I think 5 would have been better. But I think it's okay at 6. But I think 5 would have been better. But overall, this is a pretty good story, and I had a good time watching them in the Underground. It's just that it does start to drag a little bit around the middle, and it's still a bit slow towards the end. And like I said, the motivation isn't very good from the Great Intelligence. Maybe if we had more time with its motives, we could actually understand what it wants to do. I think this time around it just wanted to take the Doctor's mind, that's all. Oh well. So overall, I'm going to give the Web of Fear a 8 out of 10. Yep, pretty good story. I think it's one of the stronger from the season, but not one of the strongest. So at this point, it's halfway on the list. We've got 2 more stories to go through, though. So yeah, the underground bits more than make up for the problems that I had with the motivation, and the story, despite being pretty great, does start to drag at points, and does go on for a bit long. I think it would have been better at 5 parts instead of 6. But the underground bits make it even better. Yeah, that's my excuse for defending those bits. It's set on the London Underground. Fucking deal with it. You hear? Anyway, so that's about it from the Web of Fear. Next time we'll be looking at Victoria's final story, Fury from the Deep, and which is also the last completely missing story, at least no complete episodes surviving. There's a couple of clips, but no complete surviving episodes. So back to reconstructions for all 6 episodes, and we'll end on the Will in Space, which has 2 out of its 6 surviving episodes. 2 out of its 6 episodes surviving, and the other 4 reconstructions, and then that's it from season 5. And then season 6, only 7 episodes are missing. 2 of them have been animated, but the other 5 are the Space Pirates. So there will be no more missing stories after season 6, guaranteed. But anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you have missing episodes somewhere, if you've got a couple of missing Doctor Who stories or any BBC or ITV television episodes in your loft, in your garage, in your car boot sale, or in your garden, or in a cupboard or anywhere, where in your office building, if you've got any missing Doctor Who or BBC or ITV television episodes, return them to the BBC/ITV as soon as possible. Especially Doctor Who ones. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. And also, one other thing to remember, the London Underground rocks! I don't think you heard me. Rocks. Okay, goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. No.